Back at it again here today, 3 days in a row. What's going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday afternoon. I'm your host, Shad Dales. Thanks for checking into our TDR Trade to Black podcast. Big time guests so far this week. We need to stop, pause, and think about some of the information that was shared to us. What'd y'all think of Boris Jordan and the feedback that he provided back on Monday regarding the ALJ and how he thinks there will be no hearing? Reasons why is because he thinks there will be a litigation as well. Erwin Simon was on yesterday and gave us a pretty good indication as to where Tilray is today. So lots going on here today, including news involving Ohio and the Cannabist. So we'll bring that announcement up in just a moment. As well, a GOP senator believes we can build the proper framework that mimics tobacco when it comes to cannabis. Who was it? Well, let's find out as we welcome in TDR co-host Anthony Varell. Wednesday.
How's it going?
It's been a full week so far, but man, oh man.
It is too very shit. Hold on. I had sound going from both tabs in my computer. Yeah, it's been a great week so far. I mean, very good conversation with Boris, very good conversation with Erwin. I mean, some deep insights into what's going on. And I mean, today was not a flat day. There was some action going on in the market. There were some big headlines out of Florida. And I mean, it's just moving and shaking. Trump had an absolute bombing of an interview this afternoon.
I didn't see it.
The National Association of Black Journalists.
How'd that go? What did he talk about?
It's 35 minutes long. I've seen a couple clips from it. Whoever recommended he do that interview should be fired. It was bad.
He keeps shooting himself in the foot. Actually, I checked out one of our YouTube shorts yesterday, and someone was actually posting, "Are we Trump supporters?" And one person said, "Yeah, I find it beyond painful to listen to these guys now." I'm not a Trump supporter. What I am is shedding light on both parties as we're leading into the largest or biggest, election in American history, you could say, in recent times, and all the verticals that we basically cover are needing some sort of legislation, whether it's crypto, cannabis, psychedelics. That's the reason why we cover, the Washington angle, regardless of what party you're associated with, right?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of see it as a critical thinking exercise. If you're going to look at something and simply because we talk about someone, just assume that we politically back them or endorse them, I mean, you're probably not that intelligent of a human being. Just being completely honest. I mean, if you go on my Twitter and you look at things that I say, I was just as critical as the RNC as I was at Kamala's rally last night. And it was funny because when I posted that I thought the RNC was a complete dog and pony show, thanks to Hulk Hogan and Kid Rock, everyone was peaceful. Nobody was like, "Oh, well, you're obviously like for the other side." I posted that I thought that the Kamala rally last night was a clown show. And I've got people retweeting me saying, "Oh, you're a hypocrite, blah, blah, ball." I'm like, go see what I said about the RNC. I'm objective about politics. I don't support either of these clowns. I think they're equally as bad. And I mean, I think it's just a symptom of the political climate in this country. But I mean, if you can't use simple inference and just want to immediately go and say someone thinks something because they have an opinion on one facet of someone one way or another, I really don't have the time to talk to you.
Yeah. Thoughts and prayers go out to our one viewer, Christopher Brady. Unsure he can make today's show, has to put his dog down today. Sorry to hear that, my friend. But yeah, never an easy day.
That sucks. Actually, I have to do that. I didn't have to do that. My parents had to do that a couple of weeks ago with our family dog that lived 17 years. So her quality of life sucked, but she was a 17-year-old, 90-pound chocolate lab. She lived long.
She lived a good life.
All things considered. Yeah.
There was actually a story out of Portugal earlier this year. World's oldest dog passed away, 31 years old. That's a long time.
That's nuts.
Yeah. Steve Implore, good to see you, my friend. People are lazy, stupid, and brainwashed by politics. You said it. And that's where we are today. You're right. I'm wrong. You're associated with this party if you're not associated with this party. And it's just, that's all based on.
People care.
It's data collection.
Politics.
And feeding you content. But let's get off of that and talk about some of the highlights here today. We looked at MariMed was actually up 10% on the day, which was nice to see. They have earnings next week on August 7th. We're planning to have their CEO, John Levine, back on with us. But a nice day for MariMed, to say the least.
Yeah, it was on volume too. 313,000 shares traded, up about 10%. Good day for MariMed.
Yeah.
There were a couple
Also,
other. I was going to say there's a couple. Ooh, my order
cannabis.
actually
How are they
expired.
moving today? They've had so much great news this week. What a week it's been so far for them. We're only halfway through.
CBSTF is up another 5%
Okay.
on 630,000 shares. They're
Scott's
up.
Miracle Grow's up over 11% on the day. Wow. Wonder why.
Yeah, back of the napkin math, I think they're up around 24% this week, the
Yep.
cannabis, since that announcement.
And don't look now, because we talked about this with Dan from the Chart Guys, and it is, I don't know, man. I think this could be the winner of the psychedelic space. MindMed up another 10% on the day. So pay attention to that company, because some of the chief medical officers and people behind the scenes there have a long, rich history with the FDA and bringing drugs to market. So you combine that with good data and good science, you can understand, man, that was a lot of house cleaning with that company going back to the original days of J.R. Ron as the CEO, and it hit on hard times, but they have clearly righted the ship with
Oh
what
yeah,
they've done here in 2024.
$666 million market cap as of right now.
600 and what?
666 million dollar market cap.
Wow.
At the close.
Marcus Smith, good to see you. I don't care how you vote, TDR team. We're on the same side with cannabis. Much love. You as well, my friend. Shroom Sleep. I know you like us bringing up MindMed here and there, but yeah, I know you're a big follower of that industry. And there's going to be some big news coming up in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, we think, with the FDA ruling on an MDMA related to Lycos. So
I forgot about that.
I know that's T-minus less than 2 weeks, but I think if you are a believer in that space, you don't want an outright no. I think there could be in a situation where they say go collect more data. But if you get an outright no, there's some companies that would be very concerned about their future health within the industry. But that's coming up. Guess what? I reached out to Anthony Cogniglio, and he's coming on at the very last second. So we're going to bring him up momentarily. But first up, let's go to Into the Wire and bring up Florida. Busy week so far. Let's keep the momentum going. And look, we've touched on this a lot, Anthony. Recent weeks, we've heard from Governor DeSantis express his current thoughts about adult use cannabis and Amendment 3. And now we have two more major law enforcement associations jumping on that bandwagon as well. Both the Florida Police Chiefs Association and the Florida Sheriffs Association have come out against Amendment 3, arguing that the reform would increase youth use and impaired driving, along with illicit operations and tax costs for residents, and even going as far as saying it would increase deaths. So you're in Florida. Has there been much feedback from the public about some of these comments?
So a couple things here. Everything that you just said pretty much has been debunked by data and certain studies.
Agreed.
For the most part. I do think that it is something that needs to be spoken about, driving impaired while using marijuana.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I say that is because there currently is not an effective measure to measure the amount of THC in someone's system if they're impaired driving. That being said, I think it's a null moot point. But I mean, their direct quote was that the passing of adult use cannabis would lead to violent assaults and deaths.
Crazy.
I don't know about other people, but I can tell you, this is anecdotal. If you give a bunch of college guys a bottle of whiskey, they're probably going to get fucked up, maybe go out and fight some people, go to a bar, whatever. Give them a bunch of weed, they're probably going to be peaceful, sit on a couch, talk shit, and have a good time for the evening. Cannabis does not turn you into a violent person at all. No matter what you want to think, no matter what, Kevin, get out of here, Wolf. BLOZF is a scam. That is for certain. Cannabis does not cause people to be violent. I mean, we need to have a real conversation with law enforcement as it relates to cannabis, on the effects of it, on the effects on society, and just have an honest conversation, because there are things, like I've said many times, public consumption, that needs to be addressed. I don't agree with being able to smoke weed wherever you want, whenever you want,
Agreed.
however you want,
Agreed.
in public. You respect my space, I respect yours. However, just all these other claims, we've seen adolescent use go down, adult use cannabis. I'd be willing to bet that you can't walk into a Florida dispensary right now in the medical program and buy cannabis with a fake ID like you can at the gas station for alcohol or beer. Like, it's a much more stringent process. These claims that they're making are scare tactics. They root back to Sam talking points, and they're just not rooted in fact, once again, by law enforcement.
So
That being said, go
how
ahead.
does it work? Like, can agencies provide money to these police and sheriff's associations to get them behind this kind of
It's
like
low hanging. It's low hanging fruit. It's reefer madness. This is reefer madness scare tactics that root back to the 70s.
I know.
We've seen the crazy ads and the crazy things that people were making up that marijuana makes you do. They're false. They were false then. They're still false now. And now they're taking it to a next level that cannabis incites violence. Cannabis destroys society. Like, yes, teenagers should not be smoking weed and running around stoned all the time. There's 21 plus regulations on the industry and data to back it up that cannabis use does not go up with adult use markets coming online. And these are just two organizations that I don't think could be farther from the truth. That being said, today there was a major win as it relates to Florida, as Senator Joe Grutters, apologies if I'm butchering your last name, the ex-chair of the Republican Party of Florida from 2019 to 2023, he came out in favor of Amendment 3. He's backing Amendment 3 publicly.
Yeah.
That's a huge ally for us to have. That is the highest ranking member of the Republican Party in the state of Florida to back Amendment 3.
Yeah.
Big voice, big win. He's going to be a voice of reason. And I think that you're going to also see him be able to take people off the sidelines and defect from the DeSantis camp and defect from the people under the influence of Evan Power and the Republican Party of Florida and come over to the side of sensible thinking that 3 is the right thing to do for the state of Florida because it's the people being free. Florida's a or at least was until DeSantis got wonky on 2 issues. But he's a big name. I spoke to Kim Rivers. I spoke to Brady Cobb.
Yeah.
Be an open voice, and it's a huge net positive for the industry.
Yeah. Well, hope to get an update with Kim Rivers. They have earnings next week. Trulieve. I don't have the date in front of me, but
not sure. I think the 9th.
Yeah. But yeah, we want to have her on to talk about her latest earnings. And while we have her on, just to get an update on Yes on 3, which would be very, very helpful. Quick reminder, smash that like button, leave some comments below. Let us know your thoughts about some of the feedback that we've had so far with the guests this week. As well, if there's anybody that you'd like to have us on. Yes, Brett Sloan, I got your information regarding Zach George. We've reached out. We'll cover that on Friday. Is that pre-market or post-market? Their earnings call. We'll have our live stream on Friday at 11 a.m. So we will make sure that if we don't cover it on Friday, we'll highlight it on our live stream on Monday. But yes, we've reached out to Zach to see if we can get him back on. Into the wire here on a Wednesday afternoon. I'm your host, Shad Dales. Go ahead.
Earnings are on the second aftermarket.
SNDL. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Truly the most promising cannabis company for safe investing. They're a great company, that's for sure. Into the wire. Let's move on to our next topic. Involves Ohio. And if any state associations like the states, or should say the police or sheriff's association from Florida are watching this podcast, just want to give you a heads up that Ohio's about to go live with their adult use, and their governor, along with a lot of policymakers and consumers and residents within that state, are excited about it. So there's some interesting news involving today when one of the key operators in that state who received a license. Who is it, Anthony? And what can you share with us about it?
Yeah, the cannabis is fully licensed for adult use from a cultivation and processing perspective in the state of Ohio. This is great news. I'm sure we're going to see a bunch of other operators to follow. And like we'd alluded to on Monday, this is kind of foreshadowing for the first step in the process for then the retail licenses for adult use and COs to actually get adult use going should follow.
Yeah. Okay. One person that is familiar with the Ohio market, along with a lot of other markets, is the CEO of New Lake Capital, Anthony Cogniglio. So let's welcome him in. Happy summer. It's been a few weeks, but good to see you. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Mute.
Good to see you guys. Just got back.
Were you on
Can you hear
vacation?
me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear.
You're on mute.
I was.
Where'd you go?
25th wedding anniversary. We went to Tahiti. It's a place where my wife and I went for
Wow.
our honeymoon. It was nice to go back and do all that. It was wonderful. It was beautiful.
Nice. I saw the picture on Twitter. My guess was St. Bart's. It kind of looked like St. Bart's. Tahiti's nice.
You know, yeah, and I tend to be fairly private. And so, yeah, I was trying to come up with a more innocuous picture. But in any event,
Great.
It's highly recommend that. But just the broader concept, we focus so much on business here, broader concept of everybody just taking a break, opportunity to think about stuff and reload.
Oh yeah.
Is Tahiti home to that famous wave Chopu? Is that on Tahiti or is that Fiji? I can't remember, but anyways, it's a huge destination.
I don't know if that one is there, but the Olympics are.
Yeah.
Are they? How is it hot there? I would think.
There's Teohuapu, I think it's pronounced, where they're doing Olympics.
Yeah. Well, listen, the cannabis
running high 70s, low 80s.
Gotcha. So Ohio about to go live. What's your take? And I know you've been listening to a lot of our podcasts lately, but just a lot of the stuff that's been, going on related to Washington. Ohio's about to go live. We got earnings season coming up next week. All in all, I think we're turning the corner as far as the summer doldrums and, welcoming, I think the next phase of this industry as we segue into the fall. And yes, we're still in the middle of summer. However, I think things are going to pick up in a hurry here in the industry. So like, what are some of the things that you're going to be watching and paying attention to over these next 30 to 60 days?
Yeah, I think, certainly as earnings come out next week, we're all going to be looking at those financial results and seeing if some of that continued financial performance continued into the second quarter. We're all going to be looking for cash flow. We're certainly going to be looking to see tax positions. If you remember in the first quarter, a lot of the companies were talking about the tax positions they were going to take, the application for refunds they were going to take. Given the IRS press release that came out about a month ago, it'll be interesting to hear what some people talk about with respect to their tax positions. And yeah, we've talked for months now about all these catalysts for 2024, and a lot of them are starting to get here. Ohio getting here. Unfortunately, Pennsylvania didn't get done what we were all hoping they would get done in this legislative session. We're all waiting with bated breath around Schedule 3. We're all waiting for Florida. I heard you just a few moments ago talking about Amendment 3. So we'll see as these occur. And one other thought I'd like to just pass on that Cannabist Verano deal. I think it's a great reminder that these companies are adaptable. These companies aren't static. And often people look at these businesses and they say, oh, this business has this set of states and it's performing this way, and therefore it's a dog forever or it's a star forever. These companies have real people that are smart, that are adaptable. And I applaud what the Cannabist is doing in terms of looking at their portfolio, recognizing where they can play to their strength, where they could generate the best cash flow and value realization for their share, taking advantage of the opportunity to divest certain assets. And so, it's just a great reminder that good management teams have the ability to adapt to their environment and make positive moves for their shareholders.
What do you think that says about their leadership team? Because I know there was questions with regards to Jesse and David taking over the helm, and a lot of people didn't know a lot about them, but they're making some bold moves with this year alone. But it appears, especially based off of news earlier this week, that I like what they're doing. It seems to me that they're kind of reassessing things, but as Jesse and David have said numerous times with us, focus on your strengths, right?
Yes, I think what these moves say about them is they have a vision. I think they have a clear plan and a clear strategy on what they think needs to be done to deliver the cannabis stakeholders. Those are both debt and equity holders, and they're executing. And we know that in business, it's all about execution, and it's about having the right plan. And so time will tell, and time will be the judge for, did they have the right plan? And did they execute that plan well? But I'd say the early returns, I mean, they've been in the hot seat, if you will, for only, but the early returns suggest that they're making bold moves for long-term value creation.
Yeah.
Were
Anthony,
you surprised? Were you surprised with the size of the deal at all? In terms of seeing, I mean, like a 9-figure deal, as far as the headline goes for the assets that were involved?
I actually wasn't, because I think what we've all said about Cannabist for a long time is they have a terrific complement of state licenses that creates a meaningful amount of value. And they've done a nice job in many places of being able to scale up. And I think the focus on the limited license states and the demonstration of the fact that you focus on a state like Virginia, there's a limited number of licenses out there, that those licenses can be very, very valuable. And so we think it just makes the case for why you'd focus on limited license states to create value for shareholders.
Yeah. Monday, we had Boris Jordan on. Did you get a chance to see that podcast at all?
I'm sorry, I'm having a delay on my side. Can you ask that again?
Yeah, I basically said, did you get a chance to see the podcast that we had with Boris on Monday? He was actually outlining some of the stuff regarding an ALJ hearing and how he doesn't think we're going to get an ALJ hearing. He thinks this is probably going to go to litigation regardless. So why would they have a hearing to begin with? But I thought that was rather interesting that he provided that feedback. I thought he was spot on with a lot of the stuff that he was saying. But did you get a chance to see much of it at all?
I did. I watched it live. I thought you guys crushed it. Another great interview. You really were able to get a lot of good information out of Boris, and he certainly was willing to share. With respect, and he's certainly very well plugged in, and I'm sure he's got plenty of people on the ground in Washington that are plugged into various components of the administrative apparatus that can provide some of that insight. I think the reality is, at least for us here at the end, like, we just don't know. I hope he's right. I hope there's not an ALJ hearing. Listen, I thought they would have one to make the process just more robust and give somebody less of a reason to poke holes in the process in the litigation. But that's just speculation on my part. And, we'll see. There's a lot of comments. They'll get through them. And we'll see. I still think that these administrative entities like the DEA and the DOJ, they have career employees who are focused on doing their work. And I think they take their work seriously and they want to move carefully. There's probably pressure from certain folks in the administration to get it done faster. I just think this stuff takes time. I think government doesn't move very fast. They're not working Saturdays and Sundays and nights to get through all the comments. And so I just think it's going to take time, is my personal view.
How are you looking at the macro? I mean, I was listening to a couple of guys during lunch today, and one of them was saying if there's a 50-point basis cut come September, they're going to see that as a sell the news event for the broad market. I mean, are you aligned with seeing cuts coming this year and the macro kind of starting to self-correct itself?
Yeah, well, so yes, I do think we're much closer. I'm not close enough to the economics to call a cut. I haven't heard many people talk about a 50 basis point cut in September. I think that would be aggressive. I actually believe what the Fed says when they say that they are data dependent. And so I do believe, in fact, that they're looking at each one of these data points. I think Friday's jobs number is an important one. I mean, it's really the jobs number that's been the issue for the Fed to really get that green light to go. And so getting that jobs number and making sure that we're not seeing an acceleration in hiring, or we're not seeing an acceleration in wages and wage growth, that's going to be really important to have a good guess at what they'll do in September. But, there's a reasonable shot that they cut 25 basis points. 50 basis points, I think, would be severe and would suggest that there's a shock to the system that people weren't watching. But here's the other thing. It's great to get into a tightening cycle, but how much do people really think the Fed's going to tighten? If you shave 25 to 50 basis points, that's great. Maybe it's 75. But if the Fed cuts 100 basis points in the next year, it really would suggest some issues in the economy for them to get that aggressive. And quite frankly, I think the Fed is looking at right now as the opportunity to maybe cut a little bit, get more to a neutral rate, but not cut so much so that they actually have a tool in their toolbox to fight economic issues down the road. It's been one of the biggest things we've been talking about for the last decade is by keeping such a low rate environment, they took away their primary tool to spark economic growth if there was a real downturn. So now having a normalized rate environment really allows them to have that tool again.
Yeah. Lots on the go, that's for sure. One of the things I found interesting too is that you mentioned to us last time we were touching base with you last month that you think descheduling, full legalization is probably 5 to 7 years away. And here's an interesting piece that Boris had mentioned, if you remember. If we were to see a Kamala presidency, you're probably looking at a minimum 3 years of research if rescheduling does take place. So in the event we have proper research and the next phase after that would be full on legalization, you're probably looking at a second term if she were to be reelected, which brings you to that 4 to 5 year time frame. So gives you kind of a better understanding as to how probably this could look and really branch out. But yeah, I think for anybody getting in this space right now, this is not anything short term as far as full on descheduling. This is going to take still some time, but you know, incremental steps, as we always say. Let's get rescheduling first and figure out all the stuff after that, right?
I totally agree. Let's get that Schedule 3. That's a very important milestone. Yes, I agreed with everything that Boris said, and it was part of that time frame, because if you think it's going to take a couple of years to get the funding in place, get the research done, summarize the research, peer review the research, then use the research as the basis for going through this process that we've been through the last 2 years all over again, right? You have to have the HHS do their work to make the proposal to deschedule. You have to go through all this, and it all just takes time, as we've all seen. But let's not forget that that's not the only path to spark incremental interest in an incremental opportunity around the sector. There's also the opportunity for states to act. You know, you could see the federal government decide that before they fully deschedule, they're going to let it become a state's decision. You could see success with the Boys lawsuit. You know, there are other avenues here that this industry has, not just a descheduling avenue. And so, you know, I continue to be optimistic. Yeah, it's going to take a while, but I am optimistic that we will get to where we want to be. Because just look at the polling. It's all the polling that we talk about, whether it's the Florida polling or the Pew Research polls or the Gallup polls. The American people want this. We will get it. It'll just take time.
92.75% of people wanted rescheduling and over 60% wanted full on descheduling. And I think that number will only rise. Anthony, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I'm there with you too. And I mean, I hear from a lot of advocates, it's like descheduling or bust. Like it's the ultimate goal is descheduling and decrim. Every single person that's sitting here advocating for rescheduling and incremental reform wants the same goal for deschedule and decrim. But if you think that the government of the United States, the way it's functioning right now, is going to wave its magic wand and say cannabis is descheduled, that is absolutely never going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not. We're going to have to go. Anthony's completely correct. We're going to have to go through incremental steps. You're going to have to reschedule it. There's going to need to be research done by government organizations, those 3-letter organizations that love them or hate them. They're going to be part of the calculus. And then maybe 5-6 years down the line, you start to see a descheduling to a full decrim effort. But this isn't going to be fast, and it's not going to be totalitarian in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, it's going to have to be incremental.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Earnings season. I know can't highlight that too much, but earnings date for you is when?
Next Thursday.
Next
Thursday before the market opens. We announce it.
Okay, well, best of luck with that, and we'll make sure maybe a week from Friday we can get you back on to talk about your latest earnings, and we can go through a lot of that stuff. But listen, appreciate it. Wanted to just see, I haven't seen you in a while, but wanted to see how your summer was going, how the vacation was, and most importantly, just some of the things you're looking for. As look, as much as we're in the middle of summer, man, it's flying by, and September is going to be here in no time, and things are going to pick up in a hurry. But one thing to keep an eye on, as Boris says, if you're going to make any kind of announcement, regardless of what party is going to get behind cannabis, and many people are thinking it's the Dems, be prepared for this announcement to happen closer to the election. as you're starting to build momentum to get votes. But Mr. Donald Trump is starting to see a little bit of that cannabis language as well. And I think it'd be interesting to see how quickly this becomes, because if the Dems, strategy-wise, you want to wait closer to the election, but maybe your, hands are tied if the Trump administration gets behind this sooner rather than later as well. But it'll be an interesting topic, that's for sure.
We'll see.
Yeah, good seeing you. Let's keep
For
in touch.
sure.
We'll check.
And as
check
we're
back
talking
with you.
about, I was going to say, as we're talking about keeping track of when things change, Anthony, I think we should start making a bet. Does decrim happen before Shad moves to the U.S.? What do you think?
No.
Shad's
I
moving
will say no on that.
soon.
Absolutely no on that.
Shad's moving soon, buddy.
It's great seeing you guys.
You as
It's
well.
Great seeing you guys. Thanks so much.
Next week, okay? All right. There's a couple of things I noticed that was regards to the cannabis. I thought the cannabis was divesting from their non-markets like Florida and Arizona. Why sell off a huge piece of a core market like Virginia unless they absolutely had to? Is Virginia not actually a core market for them? I strongly advise you to go back and listen to the podcast again on Monday. They did not sell off a core piece of their puzzle with regards to Virginia. You agree or disagree with that?
I'm partisan on that. Virginia is a core market for the cannabis. So the person commenting is correct. However, they still have a formidable business in the HSA that they operate in. They have 80,000 square feet of cultivation. Am I frozen or can you?
No, I can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were counting.
I did.
Okay. They have Virginia's a core market for them. They've said that. So it's not a non-core asset. However, you look at what Glenn Youngkin did. You look at the timeline that they're saying in Virginia for adult use. You're looking at 2026. Time value of money right here. This puts $105 million on the balance sheet. I think it was $35 million in cash today, $40 million in Verano stock, promissory note for $35 or $40 million at a later date. I kind of applaud this transaction. It makes sense for them to right-size the business. They still have exposure to the state. They've divested of their other license within the other HSA. And
still there? Getting froze here. Can you see me?
You're getting frozen or I'm getting frozen?
I think something's up with my line right now. I don't know what's going on, but anyway, could you hear me the whole time?
Yeah.
Or see me the whole time? Maybe it's on my end. I don't know what it is, but they're still a major player in the Virginia market is where I'm getting to. So it's not like they've sold that completely off. And like you said, it's a win-win because it's a wholesale opportunity in the HSA 5 district as to where Verano is going to be operating a wholesale market for the cannabis. But they didn't sell off their Virginia assets. And that's still a major player part of their portfolio, which is the message I got loud and clear from Jesse on Monday. Let's continue on with Into the Wire. And here's an interesting company. And I know we brought this up actually late last night, if I'm correct. Bring up these notes real quick. But Canadian company called MTL Cannabis. They announced first off yesterday some pretty mind-blowing earnings that grabbed a lot of attention. And when I look under the hood, there's some really telling numbers that really stood out to me. They had $83.1 million for fiscal 2024. It was up 165% from the previous year. Gross margins significantly improved as well. And operating income, I should say, surged 486%. So I know this company didn't really have your attention. We didn't know a lot about it 24 hours ago, but after doing some research, Anthony, what'd you find and learn?
So found some positives, found some negatives. Company blew out the numbers. I didn't even realize I couldn't believe what I was reading when I read the earnings report last night, which then led me to their website. Looks like it's a very craft-focused, higher-end cannabis producer in Canada. Looks like they're also medical focused, not adult use focused. From my understanding, as per talking to someone today, they're heavily focused on veterans and the medical program in Canada. Like I said, also looks like it's craft. It's a very street savvy looking brand as far as the Canadian LP presence goes. On the bad side, I had people calling me this morning and calling me during the day to want to buy the stock, and it's completely illiquid. I think it traded like 500 shares on the CSE. I can't even buy it through Charles Schwab. There's no bid and ask. There's no volume. There's no nothing. The market cap that it showed was like 12 million bucks. So this thing is completely inaccessible from a capital markets perspective right now, from what I can see. Mike Perrin, who is the CEO, he used to be with MetaPharm. I think he was the SVP of BizDev there back in the day. He's running the show now. I know that you reached out to him today to get him on. Would love to speak to him and love to do a deeper dive into this company, especially as it looks like from a numbers perspective, they're firing on all cylinders. And it was very surprising to see a Canadian LP come out with those kind of numbers that no one's ever heard of.
Yeah. They've got an international strategy as well over in countries like Portugal as well. But yeah, it's like, how does that happen? Where a company just, when it comes like, as far as liquid that you're outlining and like just the daily volume gets to be 500, is it just come down to like, just people are not aware of what the company is and what they do? Like, how does something that's producing that kind of revenue produce that kind of daily volume?
Well, it's illiquidity. I mean, you can hire a market maker, you can hire capital markets infrastructure on the back end to make sure that your stock is trading the information. I mean, there's no information on the Charles Schwab page whatsoever. I don't even think the press releases are hitting the OTC listing. So I mean, that's just housekeeping and stuff that the company can be doing from a corporate governance perspective. But yeah, I mean, the stock just was completely illiquid when I went into Schwab this morning, because I mean, I was looking to buy it from just a price dislocation standpoint.
What was it trading at? Did you see earlier today?
9 cents, I think, something around there.
Wow. A lot of revenue, though, I would say, for a company that's trading at 9 cents. But yeah, we'll reach out to Michael Perron and keep you updated. Hopefully to have that CEO on and give you more updates on that company. Maybe we'll feature that with me and my Bill McNarland on the Sunday Night Small Cap podcast and kind of unveil who they are and shed some more light. But we'll keep you posted on that. Last thing I wanted to bring up here today involves a Republican senator who says he supports a comprehensive regulatory framework that mimics tobacco. First off, Anthony, who is the senator and what do you think about mimicking off of tobacco? Because I saw this video and it was, he had some good points, but I also think some of the stuff that he talked about, the illicit market and safe banking, didn't make sense. But what was who is this senator?
Yeah, so it's Tom Tillis, Republican senator from North Carolina. That's the only pretty much big takeaway that I got from it. It was a Republican senator from a southern state that actually wanted to have a sensible conversation about cannabis. So I'm willing to listen to whatever he has to say, whether I agree with him or not. I don't think it should be run the same as tobacco. However, it needs to be formalized. He's calling for regulation. He's calling for a sensible regulatory framework to be deployed. And to quote him directly, the market is going to exist and it's going to persist regardless.
I did like
Train
that.
has left the station. He recognized that. He understands that, obviously. And anybody on the right side of the aisle that, like I said, that's willing to have a sensible conversation and calling for a regulatory framework around cannabis, I'm willing to listen to all day long.
Yeah. Michael Robinson, I think the words need to be abolished from the dictionary, rescheduled cannabis and Schedule 3. I know we've been bringing it up quite a bit, but I think this is the whole point, though. With proper banking, the illicit market would definitely be hit hard and the legal market, could flourish. He brings up some valid points as to what's going on with the black market right now and how there's certain companies in the industries is a little bit of the wild, wild west. But I think the most important thing is let's just have a conversation to begin with right now and get more educated, because the information that's being funneled to them in Washington is so far from the truth as to what's actually going on today.
I mean, just think about it from a consumer perspective in the black market. You got to call your weed dealer. They're never really on time. You don't know where they are. You're texting them. You don't really know what you're going to get.
What's in the product?
I mean, if I can go, this is also going to have to come down in terms of price, because you're never going to get that consumer into the dispensary unless the price is cheaper, if not the same.
Yeah.
So there's a long way to go before we really start to stamp out the black market. But at the same time, he is correct in his assumption that getting a sensible framework in line, regulating it to where it is just makes sense, that will have a negative effect on the black market.
Yeah. All right, gang. It's kind of a slow day, but we want to log off. But I will let you know Friday morning we're back, and we're going to have the CEO of Glasshouse Brands, Kyle Kazan, on. That'll be a great podcast and a stock that is absolutely ripped when you look at the charts over the past 18 months. We got a chance to catch up with him back in April. Anthony, him and his crew at Bedzenga. It's been a few months since then, but seems like that company is still progressing in the right direction as well. Our good friend Guap will be back for Mic Drop. Anxious to see how his vacation was, and we'll get caught up with him, and then we'll have a look at how the weekly performance was with Dan from the Chart Guys. But that's all set up and teed up for Friday morning at 11 a.m. So mark that in your calendar, as Kyle Kazan will be joining us. As well, if you want to read some of the research reports pertaining to Glasshouse Brands, make sure to click on that QR code, log on to our baked-in newsletter, and you will have access to those research reports that include companies like Green Thumb, companies like, as I said, Glasshouse, Jushi most recently, and Air Wellness, another recent one. So if you're interested in that, make sure to log on to the Dales Report or click on this QR code or within the description of this video and subscribe to our baked-in newsletter. Smash that like button. Share this video with your network. We want to spread the word.
Also, I gotta say, the people in the comments today are names that I don't recognize and I don't usually see.
Yeah.
So wherever you guys are coming from, great to have you here, and thank you for participating in the stream, because I don't recognize half of these names that are in here today.
Maybe it's some of the Tilray guys from yesterday. We saw a lot of new people
there.
there.
It's different. I scan the comments every day pretty closely, and I've never seen half of these people not once.
Bobby Drew, good to see you.
Yeah.
Hey, nice to meet you. But yeah, we're on here every Monday and Wednesday at 4 o'clock, Fridays at 11 a.m. And like I said, we had Boris Jordan on, along with George Arcos and Jesse Channon on Monday, Erwin Simon yesterday, Kyle Kazan on Fridays. So the biggest names in the space, in addition to a lot of big political figures, as I've said earlier this week. Go ahead.
We'll have Charlie from Presco will be on during earnings.
Yeah.
So we'll have him once they drop numbers 100%.
David Gobert from Air Wellness is on. We're going to be reaching out to Kim Rivers. We try many times to reach to Ben Kovler from GTI, but that is one tough guy to get a hold of. And then we'll probably reach back out to Boris to see him come back on. And then among other people like the Cannabist, Anthony Cogniglio from New Lake, John Levine from MaryMed. We're also going to have Jim Cacioppo from Jushi. All these people will be on combined with different political figures, because we're planning to go to Washington again in September once they're back from the recess season and speak to the sponsor of the Safe Banking Bill, Congressman Dave Joyce, Congresswoman Nancy Mace, along with senators that include people like Elizabeth Warren, Mitt Romney, and really ask where the status of cannabis is, especially with all this hardcore data that was announced last week from Headset regarding the comment period. David Klein, there's another one. That's going to be next week.
He'll be on during earnings. I'd like to get Bina back from Organigram, and then I'd also like to get Michael Gorenstein on from Kronos.
Yeah,
to have a conversation on what his outlook is for the future of the sector, especially as he's got that war chest of cash that's just sitting there.
Reach out to him. But yes, David Klein is actually going to be on. We're doing a pre-record with him a week from Friday on August the 9th. So that'll be pushed out on Monday, August the 12th. So he will be on as well. But yes, all these names, like we do every earnings season, they will all be featured. So things are about to get busy for us, you, the investors, and the information you want to know pertaining to earnings season. So make sure to lock it in here at the TDR Traded Black podcast. Appreciate everybody for logging on here today. Anthony, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. See you back here Friday morning.
See you guys.